Good afternoon, Namibia. My name is Sylvanus Loto, and I will be your moderator for the day. Today's topic is the National Cybersecurity Awareness Creation, which, of course, today is part of a series of sessions. And the first session was held on the 12th of October 2022, and it's available on our social media platforms for those that have missed it, which is, of course, MICT on Facebook and MICT on YouTube. National Cybersecurity Strategy and Awareness Raising Plan aims to safeguard the national critical information infrastructure, educate and create awareness, as well as enlighten the viewers of some terminologies, tips and techniques to help you be cyber resilient. Today I'm joined in studio by the same guest as last week, Mr. Philemon Johannes, the committee chairperson of the National Cybersecurity Strategy and Awareness from the MICT. Welcome, Mr. Johannes.
Thank you for having me.
Next to Mr. Johannes, we've got Ms. Grace Kashivena, Empowerment Specialist Support of the SALT Essential IT. Third on our panel, we've got Mr. Edward Napolo. He's a lecturer of computer science at the university at NUST. My correction there. And last but not least, Ms. Vanessa Maresh, as Empowerment Specialist at SALT Essential IT. For those that would like to have their comments heard or have something said, please do feel free to contact us in studio. Mr. Napolo, October is known to be a month of cybersecurity. Kindly shed more light on Cybersecurity Month.
Thank you very much for the question. Actually, the Cybersecurity Month started back in 2004. It started as a collaboration between the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, a department in the United States Homeland Security Department. So that department and the National Cybersecurity Alliance, they decided to, in 2004 in October, they decided to create awareness on cybersecurity, and since then, cybersecurity have been, cybersecurity awareness was done every October since then. Sorry.
Nice, thank you. One of the ways of understanding our cybersecurity posture is through third-party analysis. Have any of such exercises been performed to gauge Namibia's cybersecurity capacity and areas of improvement? Mr. Johannes.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Yes, as Namibia, we had conducted few. We can speak of two that were direct. We had the CMM4, that's the Cybersecurity Maturity Model that was conducted by the Ministry of ICT and the World Bank in 2019 around May. And then the objective of this assessment was actually to enable government to study or determine the areas of capacity in which the government needed to invest in order to improve national cybersecurity capacity or national cybersecurity posture. This study had 5 dimensions, and that included cybersecurity policies and strategy. It looked at strategy, incident response. It looked at critical information protection, as well as cyber crisis management, cyber security crisis management, and cyber defense. The second dimension looked at cyber culture and society, where it looked at the mindset of the citizens on the internet space, trust and confidence while they were on internet, as well as the areas of personal information protection. The third dimension on this assessment looked at cybersecurity education, training and skill that were in country, as well as the frameworks in education to capacitate or include or actually introduce cybersecurity in our educational system, be it at the primary and secondary education as well as at tertiary level of universities. The fourth looked at the legal and regulatory frameworks that were in place in country, as well as the criminal justice system. And also the frameworks or cooperation frameworks that Namibia had with other countries or inter-organization within Namibia to look at combating cybercrime. Fifth, but not last, is compliance to standards, and then organizational structures in place or established, as well as technology that were in place in the cybersecurity space. The second one was, or rather this was the first one, the ITU set readiness assessment.
Okay.
This was conducted in 2017 with the intent to establish the readiness of the country to establish a national set that looked at the area of cybersecurity general context, looked at the set, that's cybersecurity incident response team roles and benefits to the country. It also looked at the country's readiness to establish one, as well as developing or providing guidelines on action plan for the country to establish one.
I see.
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. Before I let you go, Mr. Johannes, is the cybercrime bill enacted yet?
Not yet. It's still in draft. So remember, we had an expert working on the bill, but then unfortunately that specific expert at the Ministry of Justice or the legal drafter passed away, and then eventually we had to start over. That was because of he was a visually impaired citizen that actually used other softwares that nobody else had access. So we have 2 drafters now that were allocated to the ministry to facilitate the process, and eventually the drafting consultations and all that has been progressing well. So I think last from the 18th and the 19th, we have one of the other consultation of key stakeholders or critical stakeholders, which is the Minister of Gender, to look at the component of child pornography, whether to leave it in the cybercrime bill or rather have it in the other legal instruments that are in place.
I see.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. There are various terms used in cybersecurity, and one of them is attack vector. Ms. Kashivena, can you kindly explain more on this, please? What it is and what it means, perhaps?
What the attack vectors mean?
Yes.
Cybersecurity vectors are threats that. Sorry about that. We have. Let me just say what we have. We have some malware, for example. Malware is more like it's an intrusive software, developed by cyber criminals to steal data from organizations or individuals, and then you find a vector like an email attachment that can come through to a user, and then also takes away or it steals data from these users, and those are just a few examples that we have here in Namibia.
I see. Great. In last week's section, examples of various vectors of attacks were given, and phishing was alluded to be a very common one. What is phishing? And can Ms. Maresh perhaps tell us more on the types of phishing there are in the industry, perhaps with relatable examples?
All right. So phishing is the fraudulent practice of sending emails or other types of digital communications purporting to be from a specific entity or person when actually it is not from that specific entity or person. And the idea behind phishing, or the aim, is to get access to our personal information, or for us to give out information that then can be used for malicious purposes.
Okay.
So that's basically what phishing is. There's lots of different types of phishing, and again, I'll reiterate and say that it's not always important to understand and know all the different types of phishing. It's more to be cognizant of the warning signs so that we know how to react when this type of communication comes our way. But just to name a few, you get whaling. Whaling is when whaling targets CEOs and more management type of personalities, and a lot of research is done on social media, be it either using open source security software or that type of thing, or actually social engineering, where a person will sit and analyze a high profile person's social media communications and then also their company website, and then they'll send this fake email out to the employees or requesting something, money to be released, something like that. So that's whaling. You also get spear phishing, where a specific group is targeted. Spear phishing is especially targeted at your sensitive departments, if I can call them that. So your HR, which handles sensitive information or confidential information, and especially your finance departments, the people who have access to or can release or instruct to release money. Those are very much targeted through spear phishing. So it's very specific people or a group of people that is targeted, or even a person. And then you also get things like vishing and smishing. So vishing is using voice, so just the PH with a V, voice, vishing. And it's when, for example, someone that says they're from MTC calls you and tells you that you've won lots of money and they would like you to confirm your cell phone number. And then things like smishing, again, is just using SMS. One of the more newer ones is angling. And angling is when using social media and then getting these deceptive messages via direct instructions, like turn on your MFA or multi-factor, but it's not really coming from the social media platform. And then also because Meta is now in one house with WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram, it's very easy for people when they have access to, or when they are a friend or a follower of yours on Facebook, for that to filter through and then to be able to use Messenger as well to reach out to you. So those are just a couple of examples.
I see. Great. Mr. Nepolo, kindly tell us, I believe we're all familiar with receiving links on our social media platforms, it be emails, WhatsApps, and so on. Usually it comes with a website link. You find HTTP and HTTPS, which stands for Hypertension Text Transfer Protocol. Yes, awesome. And the other one has the S on it.
Yeah.
Can you maybe quickly distinguish the two? Which one is safe, which one is not safe, so the public can know? Okay.
The difference is with HTTPS, it means that we are using an encryption protocol. Generally, the older one would be SSL, and the newer one is a TLS. But the point is to make sure that the communication between the web browser, which is the end user at this point, and the web application, maybe to whatever website that you are connecting, maybe NBC's website, you are trying to find some information there. So the communication between the client and the server should be encrypted, and that's what HTTPS does. So in a lot of cases, people mistaken it for, if a website, for example, is using HTTPS, they think that specific website is not hackable or anything. It has nothing to do with the ability to hack the website. The website can still be hackable, but what we are trying to protect here is just the transit of information in between the client and the server. And ideally, we would like to counter phishing in that end, because if somebody would intercept the communication in there, even though they will have the information on their PC, they would not be able to read it because it's encrypted, and you could only decrypt it if you have the correct public key to decrypt this information. And of course, using HTTP, it means that information is sent in plain text. So when someone intercepts that communication, it means they can easily just read it.
I see.
Yeah.
Namibia, I believe you had it there. Please don't click on the HTTP, rather look for the S for secure at the end there.
Yeah.
Awesome. What are the common telltales of phishing emails and? What can you do if one is perhaps phished in that regard?
Yeah, the best thing to do, like my colleague Vanessa says, there is different types of phishing, and some of them are intending to steal your information, confidential information like usernames and passwords, and some of them would want to steal your identity theft. So depending on which one you've been victim to, it's always very, very recommended. It's always recommended to change your credentials if you think your username and password has been compromised. And another thing that you can do is to maybe inform the authorities. Maybe whatever username or password it could be, maybe it's your username to log into NBC's website. Let NBC know that, okay, my account with you guys might have been compromised, and I think for now, just suspend it for now. I don't want any activities until that matter is sorted out.
Great.
And yeah, just to add on, some of the signs that you would probably see that you might have been phished, assuming that you've, how do you call it? You've enabled multi-factor authentication.
Okay.
Sometimes you will receive an email telling you that your password to this website has been changed. And if it was you, you can ignore it. But if it was not you, then you can click on this link to sort of recover. And I've seen a lot of times people ignore these emails. You know, they just know I didn't change the password, and then they ignore. And then later they are unable to log into their accounts. And only then they let people know that, okay, I can't let into my, especially recently, I've been receiving a lot of Instagram requests. People's Instagrams have been hacked in, and they want now you to recover it. And you ask, but didn't Instagram send you an email confirming that you changed? Yeah, I received it like a month ago, you know, and they totally just ignored. Now, after they've lost their usernames and passwords, only then they want to recover, which is a little bit too late then.
I see. For viewers sitting back at home or watching us, streaming us on live, kindly do bring in your comment by calling us in studio, 061 400 397. I repeat, 061 400 397. Or alternatively, you can follow us on Facebook at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. On YouTube, that will be MICT Namibia. Ms. Kavena, another commonly heard term was hacking. Of course, and it's people from various walks of life falling victim of this. What is hacking exactly? And how can internet users protect themselves from this? Ms. Kashivena.
Hacking, in my understanding, let me just say in my understanding, hacking is stealing information. So it's getting into somebody's system, whether it's a computer network or computer server or servers of any sort of organization, and stealing information from that and then using that information or just getting into the systems. That's like basically the basic definition for hacking. Just getting into systems, illegally, yes, without permission.
I see.
Can I add on?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Feel free.
And generally with cybersecurity, when you talk about cybersecurity, we generally revolve around these three principles of the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, availability, authorization, and non-repudiation. Okay, I mentioned 5, but they call them 3, but they're actually 5. So whenever any of these 3 principles are violated, then you can call it a hack, because then you might have seen information that is confidential that you were otherwise not allowed to see, or you might have changed data that you are not supposed to change, or you might have made data unavailable when it was supposed to be available for people that are supposed to use it. So when any of those 3 are violated, then we can pretty much call it a hack.
I see. Tell me, Ms. Maresh, what is the best course of action when one does become a victim of hacking?
We had this discussion a couple of minutes before we started as well, because our human nature or our first response is that, it's happened, and now it's it's like a scandal for a lot of businesses, especially. It's an embarrassment. But it should actually have the opposite effect, because only if we speak about it and we report it and we talk about what's happened, and even like Philemon was saying, we need to do an incident report and make it public. That's actually the best way that we as a nation will build resilience, because when we create this awareness, so my answer is you should report it, and you should make available the information to the public that what has happened to you or to your organization, because in that way you make it more difficult for the next attack. Because then if it's known this is what happened, this is how they got into my systems, this is what they did once they were there, then and make it available to the public at large, then next time when something similar is starting to happen in your own environment, you'll be more cognizant, and it'll already start to raise those warning bells and start to make you a bit more concerned, which could then in effect really get you out of the situation, or you can then put measures in place not to become a victim. It's also important that we talk about it, because when we start a conversation around it, and this is why these sessions are also important, we need to talk to each other about things that we could do which helped avoid such attacks, or things that we can, and I'm not always saying, go and buy the greatest, bestest software or antivirus, but, we need to start the conversation so that we can help each other and guide each other, and understand that this problem is not the IT department's problem. It is a national problem, and we're all in it together. So we need to talk about it. So my guidance would be is, don't be embarrassed. It does happen to everyone. At some point in time, it happens to everyone, and you can play a bigger role in helping it not happen so often if you do talk about it. So report it. If you suspect you've been attacked or phished, there are stock standard response things that you should do. But I think the most important thing is for us to keep the conversation going, because in that way we will help each other to not become victims.
I see. Currently, Namibia is undergoing a SIM card registration campaign. Not forgetting what has happened in Namibia, a Standard Bank client lost about 450,000 Namibian dollars about 4 or 5 years ago in 2016. Recently, a member of parliament also became a victim and lost 200,000 of it. Mr. Johannes, how does the registration of SIM card help in the fight against cybercrime?
Okay, thank you very much. The SIM card registration is a legal requirement by the law. So that's also in a spirit of trying to protect the nation from cyber crimes, specifically identity theft, fraud, phone-based fraud. So most of those that had fallen victims, we know very well nowadays we use our mobile numbers and mobile devices to do banking at the comfort of our bedrooms or even wherever you are, even if you're at a farm. So now, in the incident you just narrated of Standard Bank clients and parliamentarians that have lost some amounts of money, it's definitely, if it was a SIM card that was registered, for example, if it was through e-wallet, I too almost fell victim at one point, but then I did not pick that call, and I eventually did not. I saw the message that somebody is trying to link your e-wallet to the FNB app, but then I ignored the call that came immediately to perhaps say, please, I sent you a one-time PIN by mistake. Please quickly read it out to me. So that I did not do. But those that have fallen victims, and this number, obviously, when we call the bank, it could not be traced. So when the SIM is registered and there is a name and address associated to that specific name, it's easy to fight crime. It's easy to fight or trace these fraudulent activities, be it in the banks, be it on the internet where a number could be used, or even on these smart apps that we have, banking apps. So practically it's a way of protecting the nation from fraudulent activities and phone-based identity theft. In Africa, for example, we would say and Namibia is almost at the bottom or at the end of those countries that have already adopted the principle. Most of you that have traveled, you have seen that in other countries you will not just walk into an outlet and buy a SIM card without a passport and without a proof of residence at the hotel or B&B where you are actually booked. So hence for us, we are just joining the masses. The world over has already been implementing such laws or legislations.
I see. They try to con you not knowing you are the committee chairperson.
Yeah.
Right before COVID, there was stats done, and Namibian internet users were about 31%. I believe it has increased. Young people, especially school-going youth, are known to be daily or every minute internet users. What are there any activities happening or taking place at this level to educate the youth or about these risks of cybercrime?
Yes, if I may take that. The activities or efforts to educate these youth, children and out-of-school youth, parents and grandparents is exactly what we are doing here. We mentioned in the cybersecurity strategy that we developed as a country as a baby step towards building this cybersecurity resilience in our citizens, in the netizens. What we identified the target groups in the cybersecurity strategy, and then it's these target groups now we started delivering sessions. We started with the MICT employees, where we had around 8 sessions. We had 2 sessions with the Parliamentary Committee on ICT, Parliamentary Standing Committee on ICT and Innovation. With these few sessions, we actually delivered already. We count ourselves as we have somehow reached that team, because it's the MICT employees that are parents of these youth and children, is the parliamentarians that are parents and grandparents of these children. So when we give this information to them, they are supposed to have passed on to these either children or grandchildren. But we also have written a letter to Minister of Education to present to them our offer to actually deliver these sessions at schools, be it online or physical, provided the school or the regional council or constituency office can organize the hall and bring together 2 or 3 schools, and then our teacher Vanessa will deliver all these technical things and the little terminologies that they need to know, and the defense mechanism when they are actually faced with that situation.
I see. Great. Let me put this question out. Does Namibia have hackers convention where hackers come together where they try to beat specific systems? Do we have that in place? Perhaps, Ms. Moresh?
Yes, we were actually just involved with NUS last week, where they had their cybersecurity competition.
Okay.
It was basically providing infrastructure, which us from SALT side did. And then we had the NUS students, they were doing the defending. And our colleagues there from across the street, Business Connection, they were doing the attacking. And I believe it went very well. They were quite exhausted. But yes, so definitely there are these types of initiatives that are being hosted, which also, to a certain extent, addresses the youth component. Even if it is your school leavers, they are critical, especially if we're going to be building up skills locally. And we were also having this discussion, Edward and I, the cybersecurity, because it's become such a big thing, it's now one of the highest paid jobs is CISO, which is your Cyber Information Security Officer. It's basically unaffordable. So it's very important that we develop those skills in our young people. So yes, there are many such initiatives. I also wanted to mention here that there is a global index which is called the National Cybersecurity Index. And it actually, what it does is it ranks the countries, all of the countries in the world, and it then positions you according to the initiatives that the country's government actually embarks on to improve cybersecurity, and you know, what are we doing to address attacks, and what are we doing to manage incidences. And it's specifically these type of initiatives that, you know, help us improve our ranking and our cybersecurity resilience in general, because this is also something criminals look at. They also look at public forums, such as the National Cybersecurity Index, and they say, oh, you know, those guys at the bottom, they're going to be easy targets, let's go for them. So all of these initiatives, this initiative that SALT has got with MICT, the act that is busy becoming a reality, all of these things are pushing us up the rankings and hopefully making us less of a potential victim.
Great. Viewers at home, just a reminder, if you'd like to add your comment or your opinion or your take on this, please do feel free to call in studio. Up next, we'll play a very short video of the different types of phishing.
The term phishing describes a wide range of tactics cyber attackers use to trick you into doing or providing something they want. These may include entering your login information to a fake banking website, opening an unsafe email attachment, clicking an unsafe link, and transferring money into an overseas bank account. So how does phishing work? There are many types of phishing and countless ploys attackers use to catch new victims, but all phishing attacks have something in common. They exploit human nature rather than technology. Many phishing emails trigger your emotions by telling you something is wrong or that bad things will happen if you don't respond. Phishing emails often want you to act with urgency, and most phishing emails try to build trust, often by impersonating a brand or person you know. The from field or email domain may seem legitimate. In 2017, the average cost of a phishing attack for a mid-sized company was $1.6 million. The total cost of this kind of global cybercrime exceeded $600 billion. Phishing clearly works. How can you prevent it? Employee security awareness and training are key parts of a solid phishing defense. You also need a cybersecurity solution that focuses on threats that target people. To learn more about how you can build a defense against phishing, visit proofpoint.com.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to the MICT. We have a caller online, Mr. Anytime from Tsumeb. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Welcome. Thank you. Please do give your opinion.
Yeah, before I go to my question, I'd like to share my experience on what I experienced last year. I think it was in September. I don't know whether MCC has also a service whereby a promotion software that was running, whereby one will receive a call and that number is not indicating, it's not appearing on the screen, the phone screen. Then someone will tell you, no, I'm calling from MTC. You had won yourself 15,000 or 10,000. So I don't know how can we deal with that one also. The person was insisting to request for my first four cash card numbers at the back, which is, I think it's 04854, that one. The first it's an FNB cash card.
Okay.
Then I asked the person, are you calling from, where are you calling from? From MTC. Said, no, does MTC use this kind of one registered number? Can I speak to the manager of MTC? And the person will say, no, can you just please give me the number of the digits on your cash card? Otherwise, I will go to the next person, I will give this to you. You will lose this 15,000. So maybe you can also help us on that one, because a lot of citizens of this country have experienced that one. MTC does not do that. Now, who are these people? I refused to give my case copy a number. And then from there, the question, this is not just the national cyberbullying or cybercrime. It's a global one. I followed what the madam said, one of your panelists indicated that you can report this. No, if it's not, it's outside of the country, like maybe it's from Nigeria or it's from Zambia, how do we handle this one?
Very good question. Just to clarify quickly, you say when they call you, is it a private number that does not...
It indicated unknown.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Any time from Tsumeb?
Thank you.
Awesome. Any of the panelists, perhaps? Ms. Morash.
So this is a very common scam. And I think, once again, just to put this out there, is that the authority here that's being targeted is MTC. And MTC really can't do anything to stop people from going to buy a number, making it anonymous, and trying to get money out of people. So the video spoke about the signs of phishing. This was your vishing, because it was done with a voice. And, the signs were, they were trying to elicit emotion out of you so that you would act without thinking, because the happiness would have come with, ooh, you've won lots of money, and then that might have, and so you were sharp enough not to do it, but, it's that urgency, and I'm going to hand it over to the next person or give it to the next person if you don't give me your information. So it was handled correctly. What I can recommend you also do is that you can verify legitimacy. I mean, really, if it's a serious competition, then you can phone them back. The logic behind you going to lose it, and if you don't give the information now, that's unrealistic. So you, in that instance, contact the authority, contact MTC, and verify. And also, again, to make it people aware, because yes, it's happening in Namibia and all over the world, is that when you contact the authority, they can actually put communication out warning people about it. So it's super important that you report it again, because we are all in this together. How you must handle it when it comes from other countries, exactly the same way. You make contact with the authority through a different channel of communication. So you try to phone them, visit their website, but never act out of urgency. Never because you feel you're going to lose the money or you're going to be locked out of your account or whatever the case is. Don't act out of urgency unless it is when you get an email saying that your password's been changed. That's the only time you can act out of urgency, because then you do need to verify it. But always try to use a different form to verify the legitimacy of the sender or the originator of such a message. As soon as it elicits emotion, verify the legitimacy. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Perhaps just also to add on to that I believe institutions will not require private information by telephone or email, any of those. Mr. Jonas, you wanted to add on something?
Yes, I wanted to add on the context of, he rightly cited that when it's from somebody else, from some other countries, how do we report it? Part of this strategy that we are popularizing and the act of awareness that we are creating comes from the National Cybersecurity Strategy. And then one of the pillars is national and international cooperation. So what we do, be it at the SADC level or international level, those countries that recognize the importance of cooperation in cybersecurity matters, we also approaching or being approached by countries to actually sign memorandums of understanding or memorandums of cooperation to handle. In case it's reported to MICT and then perhaps the number or the country code is seen to be Zambia, we definitely will know the authority that's in Zambia that deals with cybersecurity matters, and will do a verification or perhaps alert them of that incident.
I see.
Yes.
Right, thank you. On our social media platforms, we have a question, and we'll display it for the panelists to try and see how we can guide our viewers. Why MICT? Why is MICT not engaging Ministry of Defense in respect of cybersecurity?
Thank you very much. That is an allegation, is not true, because Edward and myself will confirm that in our committee that I'm a chair, that developed the National Cybersecurity Strategy, Minister of Defense is and other critical stakeholders were represented, and if anybody from that department in that ministry referred to would not confirm that that's true. So we are working together with, we have done a stakeholders mapping before we started with the exercise.
Great.
And we realized who are the critical stakeholders, and we brought in from the public government security cluster, academia, we have Mr. Nepolo, the private sector, we have Salt here. So everybody that was interested in the context of cybersecurity has been given the opportunity to join and play their part.
Great. Ms. Maresh, small businesses are becoming common targets to cyber attacks or criminals, so per se. And for businesses, we know, especially small businesses, we know cybersecurity can be very expensive. What are some of the actions that these business owners can take to at least be on the safe side or minimize risks of cyber crimes?
I think the easiest win is the end user awareness. So attending training so that you can prepare your employees so that when they are faced with these threats, they know how to respond. It's the attacks many times, yes, they use malicious software to penetrate systems and to cause damage or harm and lockout. And ransomware, I think, is one of the greatest fears that SMB business owner is faced with, is them taking all of your data, all your information, and you have to pay up. So the easiest win, I would say, is the end user training or the employee training, and there's lots of this type of training available on YouTube as well, over and above to what we are going to be offering to the public. So if it's an urgent need, you can go and look for this training on YouTube. It's also free. But we are hoping that we will address that by providing this cybersecurity awareness training through our free virtual online training sessions. And then I'm going to dispute the expensiveness argument, because it really is not. I mean, I'm looking at, if I look at per individual, if you want to cover per identity, per device, can start off anything from $30 Namibian a month to 70 or 80. So it's not a big amount of money that you invest. And again, you have to see this in the greater scale of things. Like people that also don't do backups because it won't happen to me. You do need to have things like backups in place. If you've been ransomware, at least you have a backup of your data. Then they can't hold you ransom because they have a copy, but you still have a copy. And backups are also super, super cheap to do. I mean, literally there are backup solutions that we sell. It's like cents per month per gig and $200 per device. So the whole thing of it being unaffordable for me, if you look at what would happen to you if you didn't have these type of things in place, the alternative, it's just, you know, what is $200-300 a month? You take your family out to Spur, not even for that amount. So cut down the one Spur, rather invest in having proper backup in place, invest in having at least the basic antivirus and anti-malware software, and there's good stuff out there, and doesn't cost an arm and a leg. And you know, at the end of the day, you are going to be able to take them on holiday at the end of the year because you gave up the Spur, one-time Spur a month, but you've not lost the 20, 30, 40,000 that could have been the case. Because remember, when they ransomware you they basically stop your operations. The business can't function anymore. So the loss is not just in the ability of not to invoice, not to transact. It's also in recovering what you've lost. So I dispute the fact that it has to be an expensive exercise. It doesn't have to be. You just need to have people guiding you. Again, we're a team. Let's work together. But it doesn't have to be expensive. But if you really want to start with a free version, then you can start with cybersecurity awareness training, because even having all the software and hardware and everything in place to protect yourself, the threats are very new. We said that the criminals are working full-time, so they are constantly looking at new ways to get into our systems and get to our data. And these, it takes a while for the antivirus companies to play catch-up. So there's always a first victim. So if you really want to be safe, see that you do have proper security measures in place, but start with the security awareness, because it's the people that click. The email can come through, but at the end of the day, it's the person that does the clicking.
Better safe than sorry, they say.
Exactly.
So thank you for the clarity there. It's not expensive compared to the data you're about to lose. Mr. Apollo, quick one, yes.
Yeah, I just want to highlight on the importance of what Vanessa said about awareness, because I always say that the human factor is the weakest link in a security chain. You can invest so much money, millions of dollars in the technology to protect your infrastructure. But for as long as your users are not aware on how to identify and respond to these threats, all that is going to be a worthless, how do you call it, investment. So on the other end, it depends on when you say it can be costly. Maybe we can say it's additional funds, but it really depends on how much how you are costing it. Because at this point, we'd like to think that your company's data is more valuable than the $200 that you are saving every month. Because if I think a basic antivirus that has ransomware would cost something less than 300 Namibian dollars per device, and I think looking at it from that end, I don't think it's really costly. And what I would like to add to what she said, or what Vanessa said, was that we understand small businesses might not be able to afford these kinds of things, maybe. But then again, I would like to suggest that from time to time, if they do then decide to do it themselves and watch training, free trainings and all these kinds of things, I would suggest that they just maybe once or twice in a year invite someone who's a professional to visit their site, the company, and just look at their infrastructure. And yeah, they can advise from there.
I see.
Yeah.
Since we're with you, Mr. Napolo, tell the viewers, what advice can you give the public out there on how they can minimize or at least remain resilient while on the internet?
Yeah, I think you should always be very careful of what you click on, because the internet is full of attacks, full of attack vectors, like my colleague here was saying. So one of the things that what people can do is to verify. If somebody is sending you an email to say that you need to respond to the email with this such information, first verify the source of that email. Right? Is it a legitimate email? Because in a lot of cases, once you hover your mouse over a certain link, it will always send you the exact link where that email is coming from, or where that link is coming from. So, yeah.
Okay. I see. Great. Ms. Kashivina, sorry, my bad. Anything you'd like to say, perhaps to the viewers out there regarding our topic today?
Yes, I just wanted to add on cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is basically, it's the defense mechanism against cybercrime. So if you as a company or as an individual, just at the very beginning, just sit down and categorize your strategy, or strategize in the 4 main categories of cybersecurity, which is network security. So in other words, securing your computer networks, just making sure that your computer networks are secure, just what like Vanessa said. And then the second one is application security. This focuses on your software and your devices, so keeping them free of threats. So always just categorize according to that. And then information security, protecting your integrity of your privacy, both in storage and in transit. And then you have, lastly, the operational security. So making sure that your processes and decisions for handling and protecting data assets is in place. Yeah, just wanted to add to that.
Mr. Jonas, any last words perhaps?
Okay, thank you very much. As perhaps our last remarks here, we just want to pledge our availability. MICT, the national committee that drafted the strategy together with SALT to actually be ready and available to any organization or groups of individuals. We're definitely not going to make it through to every home, but then groups of individuals like youth group, student groups, community, or perhaps in the community halls we can access them, and then offer the 8, it's around about 8 topics on cybersecurity, excuse me on that, that we have put together, and this could be delivered perhaps either in one full day in a split of 4 sessions or 4 topics in each session. And for as long as it's communicated in advance, we will be able to plan towards it and then deliver these sessions either physically at the venue, where we're interacting with those that have questions, or on a virtual platform. If it's a bigger group, we could also come up with webinars, and then we deliver more awareness to the Namibians in terms of cybersecurity. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you to our hosts, Mr. Philemon Johannes, Ms. Vanessa Maresh, Ms. Grace Kashivena, and Mr. Edward Nepolo. My name is Sylvanus Loto. I was your moderator. Thank you very much, and this is the Government Information Center. Good day.